Welcome back. This is Jeff again. We're continuing to work on the Ferrari 360. We're getting down to a few items, but we're waiting for parts. And so we're still waiting on the O-rings for this filter here, this screen. This is for the oil. And we're going to go ahead and put the oil filter on here because we have that. But we're waiting for the plug. When the car came in, the rear plug here, this one here is incorrect. So I don't know who installed this. This should be a brass plug with a magnet on it. So we're going to go ahead and swap that out. I talked to the customer and he said go ahead and do that. So whoever did the last few oil changes or whatever, they installed the wrong plug. So and that's a different size too than the front. So we'll go ahead and wait for that, get that in. Like I said, this is where the screen goes. So at this time, we're going to do a few things. We're going to go ahead and fix also this bracket here. The shift cable is kind of loose, so that needs to be redone. And we're going to go ahead and do that also. But we're going to go ahead and tidy up a few things. And then we can work on the front brakes. He bought new brake rotors and pads. So we've got the rotors right there. They're Brembo. And then I think he's got the pads here too. Yeah, they're Brembo pads. So we may try to work on those. Like I said, we have a few things to do. But the parts right now are holding us back. So hopefully by a day or so, we'll have all the parts. And then we'll finish this up hopefully this weekend and be complete. So stay tuned and all right, so these were the clamps. It looked like somebody had some hoses, fabricated some hoses that was holding the shift linkage on there. I really don't like it because this is really like bulky. It wasn't fitting up nice. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it with some material and then re-secure it with some, actually probably some tie wraps, believe it or not. It'll fit a lot nicer, a lot tighter. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, so I've taken those clamps off like I was showing you earlier. You can see they were crushing the cable right here. So that would cause a shifting issue also. So you don't want this, to be crushed. So I wrapped this with some heat tape. This is used in the aviation world. It's kind of weird. It sticks to itself. It's not sticky, but it sticks to itself. So we're going to go ahead and, like I said, kind of secure this up here on the ends with some tie wraps and see how it works. Because like I said, he was kind of having some shifting issues. So hopefully this will help him out. Like I said, you don't want to crush these cables. I mean, that's going to defeat the purpose also. So we're going to try this out and see if that works. So we're just, like I said, take a couple tie wraps and put them up. All right, so I've got the tie wraps installed here. It's nice and secure. Like I said, this stuff here won't crush it like the clamps were. You can see, like I said, you can see here where it's kind of crushed. So hopefully this will keep it secure. I think it'll last a long time. Like I said, this tape is heat sensitive or is heat resistant, so it'll be fine in here. So anyway, it's nice and secure. It was kind of moving around before, back and forth. You're not getting any of that anymore. I'm going to go ahead and look like somebody wrapped something up here. I'm going to go ahead and redo this too the same way. And maybe make that look a little better. All right, so I've re-secured this shift linkage. Like I said, took the old clamps out, put a couple tie wraps here, and then I rewrapped these areas also, and then secured it over on the side here. We'll see how that works. It just looks a lot better, and then your cables have more of alignment with everything. Everything's like shooting straight compared to being bowed out and everything. So hopefully that will help him out. We'll see. May have to reconfigure it a little bit, but as of right now, I think it's going to work better than it was. So we'll have to check it out here in a few days, but looks a lot better. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue on now. We're going to go ahead and remove the oil filter. Like I said, we're waiting on the parts. So that's one of the things we can do right now. So I'm going to try to get the oil filter out, put the new one in, so then when we get our plugs, we can service the oil. All right, so we've got our oil filter here. Here's a new filter. You always want to put oil on the O-ring. You want to make sure that the old O-ring comes off because you don't want to stack them up. That'll cause a leak. This is going to be torqued to 25 Newton meters. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall that at this point. All right, so we've got our oil filter back in place. Like I said, we'll have to leak check that once we get the parts. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and move on and figure out something else. All right, welcome back. We're still waiting on some parts. Hopefully they come today. So I know we've got some stuff removed for the engine, or for the oil and that. So like I said, we're waiting on parts. So we're going to go ahead and change the brakes. So we're going to go ahead and change the rotors, the pads. We're going to remove that, change the sensor. So we're going to go ahead and remove this and change those out. And then we're going to do a bleed of the whole system. And we're going to take all the wheels off and then bleed from the back, front to the front. So we're going to go ahead and start with the pads though, and the rotor. So first thing you want to do is you want to push these pins out, take a punch, just like this. You push these pins out, and then the spring is behind here, so this will pop out. And then once you get these out, the pad should slide out, and then you've got this wear sensor here that you got a 10 millimeter clamp here. Take that off. It's connected right here. We'll disconnect that, and then the caliper, remove this bolt and then this bolt right here. I'll have to look at what size it is, and then the caliper should come off. And then like I said, the pads, we'll pull this out like this. The pads should kind of slide out. It might have to take a pair of pliers or something to pull these. And then this sensor just slides in this aft pad right here. So take it, kind of keep an idea where that's located on this, because the new pads you don't want to flip them backwards or whatever. So keep in mind that's where that's at. So we're going to go ahead and take this all apart and proceed on. So we've got an Allen on here. It's a number 10. So take these two, like I said, this one and the one below, and then see how it's starting to get loose here. So take those two out. Be careful when you take this off, because your line is a solid line, so you won't be able to move this too much, maybe just enough to get out of the way to get your rotor off. But as you can see here, we got the pad off with the sensor. We just left this on because the whole thing is we've got new sensors, but that just slides on there. We're going to change the whole thing out, so we're going to just leave it as is. But we're going to go ahead and, like I said, I wouldn't let this thing hang. I would support it somehow, but just enough to get your rotor off. That's all you need. So anyway, we're going to move on. So we've got our rotor off. Mark held it here, so we didn't move it too much, so that we didn't have to break the line loose, because the line is a rigid line. So we put it back on. We're going to use the spreader right here, and we're going to push the pads back. You just want to make sure when you're doing this that your reservoir is not really full, because if it is while you're pushing this back, you may overflow it. So we're going to go ahead and, like I said, put this tool in here and check that, make sure everything looks good, but we're going to move on. So we've got our tool in there, and all you do is take a wrench, this is like a 19 millimeter, case, yeah. And then you just turn that, and it spreads it apart. It should feel nice and smooth. Just make sure it's tight on here, so make sure it's smooth and it's not binding on the housing. But it's working, and just keep on going until it stops, and then you should be good. So we're fully seated right now. I don't know if you can tell, but all the pistons are pushed to the furthest extent. So we're going to go ahead and remove this tool and hopefully be able to slide our new pads in there. And but first we're going to put the rotor on. We've got the new rotor sitting here. It's made by Brembo. That's the original manufacturer of these. So we're going to go ahead. This is like a universal fit rotor. Customer bought these, so anyway, it should work. Brembo rotor, pads, and then, like I said, we're going to install those right now. All right, so we've got our rotor. It's on. It's just held on here loosely. We've got our 2 bolts, or one here, or one down here. These are snug, torqued up, so the caliper is nice and tight now. So we're going to go ahead and change this sensor out. Like I said, you got to remove this 10 millimeter clamp right here. We're bolting the clamp, and then it just unplugs here. We'll plug the new one in, and then the sensor goes on the inboard side here. Like I said, the pads was on the bottom of it, so we're going to go ahead and put that new sensor and pad in. So these pads have an arrow on them. Okay, so the arrow is up on both of them. Okay, so like your new pads here, this one has an up arrow, this one has an up arrow, so that's what you want. That's up. Yeah, you want it like this, okay, because like I said, this is the inboard one, the sensor's on the bottom of it. So all right, so with the arrows being up, this chamfer will be down. Okay, this is not chamfered, this is, you want these pointing down. All right, so when your wheel comes around, it's going to come up through here, the disc. So these are down. All right, so this is our new pad. We've got our new sensor installed here. Now, if you look at the sensor, it has a narrow side and a fat side. We're going to put the fat side on the pad side, if you make that makes sense. Here's the fat side. On the yeah. Here's your pad, and then see, like here's the old one here. You can see it's the same way. So the fat side is on the pad side. The thin is on the metal side. All right? So that's the way you want to put that on there. All right? And just make sure it's seated all the way. It looks like I'm up a little bit. Might have to push it down a little bit more. But to make sure it's engaged all the way. And then we're going to go ahead and install the pad. And then it connects. Here's your connector here. I'll have to put my bracket or my bracket or back on there once we're done. All right, we put some grease on it. It's recommended to put some grease on the back side. You do not want to put it on the pad side. So they gave us some grease here. And like I said, we're going to put it where the pucks hit the back of the pad. And then that's about the only place we're really going to use that. So we're going to go ahead and put these in now. So we've got the first pad in. The sensor wire goes in this little area right here. And then we've got our clamp here reinstalled. Make sure you don't pinch this. Everything looks like it's in nice place where it should be. So we're going to go ahead and put the other pad in and then put our pins in. All right. They came with this new set of springs and pins also, so you can discard the other ones or keep them for a backup for some reason. But anyway, we've got both pads in right now. Don't push them in too far because, like I said, they got to line up with these holes here. And then the pins come in from the back side, and then you'll film them lock on. They'll be flush. Once they're installed correctly, they should be flush on this side, and they should be protruding almost flush on this side, but definitely flush on the back side. So we're going to go ahead and install that spring and the pins, all right? So we've got our pins back in, and like I said, you kind of want them flush here. They're just a hair down, but pretty close to being flush. Also, the valley here between the spring, this rides in between this little recessed area. So you want that in there, and you want this centered as much as possible. And like I said, just make sure you don't pinch your little sensor here. But this is all complete now. This is all torqued up. All we have to do now is put the wheel on. Normally, these would have 2 bolts here that hold this in. If you got them, I'd put them back on. Otherwise, I mean, it's still not going to go anywhere with the bolts. It just holds when you put the wheel on, it just keeps this thing from moving around. And you know, it won't hurt anything if you don't have them, but if you got them, I would use them. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and put this back together and do the other side. We've got our wheel and everything back on, torqued up, We're going to go ahead and, like I said, do the same thing on the other side. Like I said, this was kind of a pain. So like I said, if you get those fasteners that holds the rotor to the hub, I'd use them. Just makes it a lot easier to line everything up. So we're going to go ahead and, like I said, we're doing the other side right now, and no sense of recording all that. So we've completed the the driver's side here. We've got our new disc on here, rotors. We got new pads. Kind of cleaned the caliper up a little bit, torqued our wheel on. So that's all back done. I mean, you had to do like a break-in procedure here in a few days. But as of right now, we're going to go ahead and start the brake bleeding. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the right rear brake assembly. So yeah, we're going to take off the right rear tire here in a second, and then bleed inboard, outboard. So that's where we're heading. All right, so we're getting ready here to bleed the brakes. Like I said, we're starting on the most furthest point, outboard. So we're going to do the outboard first, then the inboard. You do not want to do both at the same time because they do the path of least resistance. So one at a time. I've got my jar set up here. I've got 2 jars. The inner one has fluid in it, so if somehow it does suck air back into the system, it's going to suck fluid instead of air. We're actually we're pressurizing the system.
Yeah, if this isn't, we're screwed.
So,
Yeah,
so we've got a reservoir here hooked up. We're going to put like 10 psi on it, and just make sure we have fluid in here. Hold on a second. We got a problem here. All right, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We just have to pump the pedal. Mark's going to watch the fluid quantity while we do that. So you don't want to deplete the system, get air in it. So it's got a little excess fluid in it right now, but we're going to go ahead and use the brake pedal method to bleed the system. We bled the right rear. We're finished with it. We're going to go ahead and do the left rear at this time. This car is missing like the little covers for the bleeders here. If you got those, I'd leave those on. We're going to have to get some, but those can be installed anytime. So we've done the left rear now. Like I said, we did the outboard, then inboard, and then like I said, one at a time. We did it like 3 times. He pumped it up. I opened it, went to the floor, closed your bleeder, let the pedal up, repeat that 3 times on each side. Should be sufficient. Like I said, just make sure your reservoir stays full. You do not want to get air in the system. So we've done that here. So we're going to go ahead and remove these lines, clean this up, and then put the wheel back on and move to the front. All right, so we're going to the right front tire, removing it again. And then we're going to bleed outboard, then inboard. Like I said, we're doing the old method, pumping the brake up, holding it, opening the Schrader, pedal goes to the floor, shut the Schrader, and then release the pedal. So that's the process we're doing. Like I said, the reservoir, make sure your reservoir is full. Yeah. All right. They're done on the right front. We did the outboard, inboard, put the caps back on, put a little alcohol on the outside to clean any kind of residue off. So we're going to go ahead and put the tire back on and then do the left front, and then we'll be finished. So we're on the last brake assembly, left front. We've got our hoses hooked on. We've got our hoses in the fluid here. We're going to, like I said, do the outboard, then the inboard, and then see what kind of fluid comes out, and then that should be it. So we're going to, like I said, pump it with the pedal and move on. We've got the wheel back on. It's all bled, cleaned up, and we've got plenty of fluid, I believe, in our reservoir. Let me get up here and look. It may be a little full. The line is like right on the back side here. You almost have to take a mirror to look at it, but I think it's good where it's at. And just clean up your area, and that's really completes the brake bleeding of the Ferrari 360. All right, so we finished up earlier on the brake bleeding, and we were waiting on parts for the oil pan. So we've got our parts in. They came today, and we're going to go ahead and install those. So this is the plug that's supposed to go in the back. Someone else had put a different plug in there. Like I said, we'll go over here and I'll show you what this other plug looks like. This is the incorrect. So somebody put this plug in right here, which is incorrect. So we're going to remove that, put this brass plug in there. It's supposed to be 75 Newton meters or around 55 foot-pounds, but that feels a little strong on that. I mean, the front's probably fine, but this back one's like brass. I mean, I probably wouldn't go that high with it. I'd probably reduce that torque a little bit because you'll strip that out. The threads are not very wide. I'll show you here what I mean. I'll pull it out of the bag. All right. Okay, so this is the plug that goes in there. Like I said, there's not much thread to this. And I put a new crush washer, and like I explained earlier, there is a difference on the side. There is like a flat side and a rounded side. The rounded side goes towards the plug. So just like that. Like I said, this is a 14. The front one's a 12. Like I said earlier, the 75 Newton meters I think is kind of high, which is like 55 foot-pounds. I'm going to reduce that a little bit on the back one for sure. And then the screen here, this is our two O-rings that we got. The 177549 goes in the top groove, and the 177550 goes in the bottom groove. Okay, so there is a difference. I didn't take them out of the packages because I don't want to get them confused, but I've got them sitting here how they go on. So this one goes on first, and then this one goes on second, and then we'll reinstall this also. All right. So we've got our O-rings on here now. Throw a little lube on there. This was oily enough to when I put them on, they're lubed up pretty good. And then, like I said, we're going to go ahead and install this. Remove that aft plug. All right, so this is the plug that came out of the car, and this is, like I said, this is incorrect. So we're going to go ahead and set it. We're going back to the factory plug here with the magnet. This does not have a magnet on it. And like I said, the size is different. So this should screw right in there, and like I said, this is the correct plug that's supposed to be in there. So we're going to go ahead and install that. All right, we've got our plug torqued. We went to about 30 foot-pounds on this, so that's what I felt comfortable with it. I don't really like to go more. Like I said, this whole cover and everything likes to strip pretty easy. I've changed these before because people over-torque them. So that feels pretty tight. But the front is still 55 foot-pounds or 75 Newton meters. Other than that, we put the side cover on here, the screen, I mean, so that's in, that's snugged up with new O-rings and everything. We're going to clean this up, lower it. We've already put the filter on the other day, which that's 25 Newton meters. And we're going to go ahead and service it with oil. All right, so I put in about 8 quarts of oil in it right now. I don't want to put any more than that because the engine's cold. I put in Castrol Edge 5W40 full synthetic Euro spec oil. So what we'll do next is we'll run it. We'll get it up to operating temperature and then take our measurements. With these cars, actually, you want to be a little low is better than being too high, because if it's too high, you'll suck oil back into your breather system, and then it'll get it in your valve train, and then it can cause valve issues in your so that's why we want to do a little bit lower. I mean, we can bring it up. Like I said, this is a dry sump car, so it should be picking up oil all the time. So anyway, that's where we're at. We're going to go ahead and start it and let it run, get up to operating temperature. And at the same time, we're going to do some leak checks. We're going to leak check our coolant system, put it on full hot, and then our fuel lines. We had our fuel lines off when we took the A-frame assembly out earlier. I want to make sure that those aren't leaking because, man, if that's a leak, you're going to have a big old fire. So we want to make sure that those aren't leaking. Those are all nice and snug, and do a few other checks. Really, we're getting close to being complete on this car. We've got a few other things to do. We got to lift it back up. We've got like a little noise that we need to find. We think it's an AC compressor that's making it, maybe the clutch. So need to check that out. But right now, I'm going to get it ready to start up, and then I'm going to have to push it outside and let it run and get up to temperature. All right, we completed the drive of the car today, made an adjustment of the linkage on the shift linkage. That was turned out to be good. We adjusted the fluid quantities to the proper quantities, and then we've put the undercarriage back on here. We've got the back reinstalled. Actually, the front, we put a new panel on. The customer installed a new panel here, or had us install a new panel. He needs a couple fasteners yet, but we can install those at a later date. But at this point, that concludes this Ferrari 360 Spider service. So the customer is going to be picking it up in a couple of days. And that's about it. So it turned out to be quite a big job. So anyway, if you want to see more of this, we may have a few more cars coming in here in the next little while. Stay tuned, and thanks.